We recently asked our Instagram followers who is the best blue commander. We've tallied up the votes, and today we look at the top 10 best blue commanders in MTG 2025 update. Just making it into the list, we have Illuge, the Shoreless Sea. Released in 2024's Bloomburrow, its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. Whenever Illuge enters or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. It's an island in addition to its other types, but as long as it has a flood counter on it. The first instant or sorcery spell you cast costs blue or one less to cast for each land you control with a flood counter on it. These Illuge decks are all about slinging spells. The average Illuge decks have upwards of 40 instants and sorceries in them, so that is where we will start. Of course, we want to up the ratio of more instants and sorceries, so we can play these instants on each player's turn and trigger our commander 4 times as often. Being in blue, another popular route is to have a chunk of those cards be extra turns. Not only are there many options in blue, but the more turns we have, the more we can attack with our commander and keep flooding our lands for even cheaper instants and sorceries. Whenever a newer commander makes these lists, I'd usually say it's due to recency bias, but this powerful commander is one I think will get even more popular as the years go by. If you're looking for the best card storage, then be sure to check out Bookbox and use our code GTM10 at checkout for 10% off your order. If you're buying cards, be sure to sign up to Card Market and use our code gathering-the-magic to help support the channel, and most importantly, hit that big subscribe button. Moving on to number 9, we have the Mind Skinner, another from 2024. Released in Duskmourn, the Mind Skinner can't be blocked. If a source you control would deal combat damage to an opponent, prevent that damage and each opponent mills that many cards. One of my favourite things to say in lists like these: for this deck we are going milly silly. A keyword first introduced way back in 1994's Antiquities, with over 400 milling cards available, and around half of those being available in either our blue or colourless artefacts. We have plenty of choice here. But alongside a bevy of milling cards, we want to make sure that our commander is getting that damage through to be milling our opponents for 10 cards or more. So making sure to pack a load of options to ensure that that damage gets through is really vital here. Again, so many options from equipment to those classic lands like Rogue's Passage, so similar to milling, we won't struggle here. Another newer commander and another solid option too. Plus, it's not the only time in this video that I'll get to say milly silly.
Please don't ever say that to me again.
Next on the list we have Emry, Lurker of the Loch. First printed in the goated 2019 Throne of Eldraine set, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. When Emry ETBs, mill 4 cards. Tap to choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast this card this turn. One route here for these Emry decks, and that's all out artifacts. Starting off, let's throw in all of those artifact cheapeners, and there are a surprising amount of those within our colours. And onto the artifacts themselves, we are honing in specifically on those that can be sacrificed. Not only are we gaining something when those artifacts are sacked, such as card draw or extra mana, we can then use Emry's ability later down the line to cast that artifact again and again. If you're wanting some dirty tricks, then combining our commander with cards like Mirror and Spy, and then cards like Lotus Petal or Mishra's Bauble will give us lots of ways of quickly having infinite mana, infinite ETB, and even infinite Storm if we're leaning towards that strategy. And more importantly, an easy way to get the victory. A really cool commander, and one with a few art options which you'll love to see, including that 30th anniversary art, which actually I think is slightly terrifying. In at number 7 we have Baral, Chief of Compliance. Originally printed in 2017's Aether Revolt, instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Another commander with one route of strategy, and that is lots and lots of counter spells. I'm actually not quite sure how many blue counter spells there are in MTG, so if you know, let me know in the comment section below. But what I do know is that there are so many, you'll struggle with which ones to include and which ones you have to leave out. Here we're controlling the board, and if we play those cards that benefit us whenever we're playing those usually instant counterspell cards, then we're also gaining extra advantage on our side of the board. With plenty of counterspell card drawing going on, we can either search into an instant win con such as Triskaidekaphile, or lean into that control aspect even more and throw a few stacksy cards into the mix to keep our opponents at bay even more whilst we make our side of the board stronger and stronger. A commander sure to make your opponent's blood boil. I can see why this got so many votes on our Instagram. Narrowly missing out on the top half we have Azami, Lady of Scrolls. First printed way back in 2004's Champions of Kamigawa, Azami says tap and untap wizard you control, draw a card. One of the most simplest strategies you will ever see, we are going Wizarding Wild in this deck. Around since the days of Alpha with Prodigal Sorcerer, within the realms of MTG there have been over 1,000 wizards printed, and within about half of those being in our colour, then we have more than enough options here. Throw in every wizard we see fit, including a handful of wizard creature creating cards available, and we will have a big wide wizarding army that's ready to tap into his army for some card draw in no time at all. A synergistic creature type, we can cheapen the casting cost for wizards, make them stronger, draw us more cards, and everything in between. We can then either overwhelm with a big wizarding wide army, or even play those cards like Labman and hopefully draw through our deck to get the no library win con. A simple but strong commander. Is this the best wizard commander ever printed in MTG? Probably not, but it's definitely up there. Next on up we have Talrand Sky Summoner. Another oldie, first released back in MTG's then yearly core set in 2013. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue drake creature token with flying. We've seen him once or twice in cards in the 99 in this top 10 list, but now Talrand gets his very own spotlight. Similar to Eluge, these decks are absolutely jam-packed with those instant and sorcery spells. Again, the average Talrand deck has around 40 instants and sorceries, which is no surprise, so add in all the best ones you can find to start Talrand creating them birds. Then play all of those classic accompanying cards Talrand usually sees, like Murmuring Mystic and Favourable Wings, to create even more token flyers, make our flyers even stronger, and generally put us at a more favourable position to win. With the amount of 1 mana blue spells available to us, this is a deck that can go wider than most at a potentially frightening speed. I did a starter recommendation in the white top 10 list, and I would say Talrand is the blue deck for you if you are wanting to take your first steps into EDH. Just missing out on the bronze medal spot, we have Bruvac the Grandiloquent. First printed in the original Jumpstart set in 2020, if an opponent will mill 1 or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead. I said we'd say it again, with Bruvac we are going milly silly. We will probably be seeing a few repeat cards from earlier with the Mind Skinner, but that comes as no shock as they share the same strategy. We're literally doubling down in this deck though, as when we make our opponents mill, they are milling twice as much. The MVP combo of this deck, and really the whole video, is Bruvac with Traumatize. Instantly mill out an opponent at the cost of 5 measly mana. That is devilishly disgusting. Although we want to keep our commander on the field, when we start double milling our opponents, he will certainly become a kill target. Fortunately, with a bevy of milling creatures, this means that we can still go milly silly whilst having a shield of creatures to protect our life total. This is such a cool commander, and to be honest, probably my favourite on this list. If I create a mono blue commander in the future, you bet it'll be this bad boy. For the third best commander, we have Min, Wily Illusionist. Printed just the once in the 2021 Adventures in the Forgotten Realm D&D set, whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with this creature gets +1/+0 for each illusion you control. Whenever an illusion you control dies, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that creature's power from your hand onto the field. A few options to go with this commander, the first focusing in on those illusions. A creature type that is almost exclusively blue, with over 90% of the 100 or so illusions in MTG within our colour, means we have a good amount of choice here. They are surprisingly synergistic too, with cards to beef up our illusions, draw cards and more, so maybe packing in the more illusions, the better. Of course, most focusing on that card draw, whether it be wheel type effects or cantrippy cards, draw as many cards as possible each turn and watch our army grow thanks to Min. This is a great card from a great set, and I think it's time for a third trip to the land of Dungeons and Dragons. Runner up and the second best commander, we have Orvar the Allform. Originally released during 2021's Kaldheim, Orvar is a changeling. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets 1 or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. When a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard a card, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. A very powerful commander, these decks tend to go cantrip crazy. Playing those blue cheap spells couldn't be more perfect for this deck. Not only does targeting one of our permanents trigger our commander for double the trouble, we're also usually drawing a card, which will continue to help put us at an advantage at the table. So the more we have here, which is usually around 25 to 30 in this deck, the better. Throw in cards like Sakashima and you'll be able to create copies of legendary creatures and cause no end of chaos. As I said at the start, this is an incredibly powerful commander, and one that I've lost to more times than I can count. This is definitely one I recommend you build if you want to scare your opponent silly. But not milly silly. Winner and the best blue commander is Urza, Lord High Artificer. First printed in 2019's Modern Horizons, When Urza ETBs, create a 0/0 colourless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control, add blue. Pay 5, shuffle your library, then exile a card. Until end of turn you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Another commander that is all out artifacts, throw it in a big old bunch here, because the more we have, the bigger the Urza's ETB creating artifact becomes. Another positive is that within the world of MTG, there is a high amount of 0 mana artifacts, so play a load of free spells and have a big beefy artifact creature token. Then make sure we have a good bunch of big mana spells, so that if we do use Urza's big 5 mana ability, we're getting a big beefy boy for free. A wildly popular commander, still claiming the top spot amongst our Instagram followers once more, and also one with its fair share of awesome art. This is one that is rightfully the best blue commander in MTG.